everyone. This is the regular meeting for the Daly City Library Board of Trustees for, thank you, August 20th, 2019. I call this meeting to order. Let's all stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. May we have roll call, please?
Certainly may. Trustee Das,
Here.
Trustee Faupua,
Here.
and President Logorta.
Present. Thank you. I hope everyone has had a chance to review tonight's agenda. If there are no updates, can I have a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion. Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None? Okay. And for our last meeting for July 16, 2019, is there a motion to move?
Motion. Second.
Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Okay. So, shall we move on to the director's report?
Sure. Good evening, President Logorta, members of the Board of Trustees. As you may recall, at our last meeting, we adopted a new policy, and that was the excessive heat policy. And throughout the course of the discussion about that policy, it was brought forward, I believe, by Trustee Faupua, that the unattended policy was one that was written several years ago, and she thought it might be time to revisit that. So it's included in your packet tonight, and I'll let Shayla give background unless she doesn't want to.
No, I'm absolutely happy to do that. So yes, this is a policy that has been in place. It looks like it since 2002, so a long time. Patterns of use have shifted, and I'm, knock on wood, happy to say that cases of children being left unattended, particularly at closing, have been very few and far between. But it does come up, and staff appreciate having this as a tool to guide them. It is intentionally a little bit vague. We do have younger children who come in with older siblings, and we consider that the supervision. And we do not, of course, ask every child as they come in their age. So there's a little bit of leeway in there for us, which is nice because it allows us to focus on welcoming children in, but in the event that there is an issue where a child is either uncomfortable or frightened being in the library or just unable to control their behavior and be appropriate in the library, then we do have this as an option. And Trustee Faupua did request that we post notices in other languages, and we have done that with Tagalog and Spanish and English, of course, and are working on additional languages as well. Are there any questions?
Yeah, when you say an older sibling, what age is that?
We don't ask them their
Okay.
ages. Obviously, if they need to be able to make sure that their younger sibling isn't getting into trouble and isn't, afraid or possibly a danger to themselves.
Okay.
I think you'll find at each of the 4 libraries that the traffic patterns are a little bit different. So like at the main library, the Serramonte main library, a lot of people do drive there, and so they come in with parents. I was trying to remember earlier, I think maybe a year ago I was asked to come up and stay with a child whose mom hadn't come to pick him up yet, but she came maybe 2 or 3 minutes after closing, so it wasn't an issue. At some of the other libraries that are closer to other services, or like the Westlake Library, which is right near so many apartment units, the children aren't left unattended because they come by themselves, but they're also able to go home independently as well. And then at the Bayshore Library and the John Daly Library, we have the community center downstairs as well.
Well, thank you for taking the time to do this. Appreciate it. Just one question. Does the city council needs to approve this before it's set in stone, or as long as.
Nothing is set in stone, but this is the purview of the
Okay.
Board of Trustees. So no,
Before-
this is where the policies are adopted or endorsed, as we, and that's up to the board if you want
Okay.
to edit, change, or strike them completely, rescind them. So,
Or reaffirm.
reaffirm.
Okay.
Yeah, which is an option too.
So-
If it's appropriate as is,
Yeah,
you could either take no action or take action to affirm it as it is. If there are changes or additions you want to make, that's within your purview as a Board of Trustees to do that.
Okay, so shall we read it and then see if there's any, like, edits we want to make? Is that
Sure.
appropriate?
And I'll,
or-
that's fine.
Yeah,
And I'll add, while you're reading that,
Uh-huh.
since I came over to the department in 2012, I can, and that's 7 years almost, I can only think of one instance where this policy really came into play.
Okay,
And
so
that was
it's
really
not a common.
a case of
yeah.
criminal neglect. It
Yeah,
wasn't,
uh-huh.
sort of casual. So the good thing is, and Chayla stated it earlier, this is rarely invoked, but it's a good tool to have. So we don't track it specifically, but we're estimating maybe once every 2 or 3 years, a child is left unattended at closing time, and more times than we can remember, before the staff takes any action, the parent shows up. So, maybe like the most recent case, the parent was 2 or 3 minutes after closing. So that's a good thing.
That's a great
isn't-
thing, yeah.
This isn't a
Nobody's-
policy that we have to invoke on a regular basis, but it's a good policy to have.
I inquired with my staff before coming here this evening, and I had one of the librarians who's often staffing the front desk at closing. And I asked, because this has come up in her time with the city, and she said, "Oh, today's helicopter parents? No."
Okay.
It is a different world. Parents are less inclined to leave a kid
Just leave a
unattended.
kid, yeah.
It's the world we live in today.
And then this, I'm sorry, will be posted? Or is it something we have like,
So all of the library's policies are available in print, either at the front desk or in a binder somewhere in the library. We had historically had the English notice that you'll see attached to the policy, posted on the wall, usually near the children's area. I think over time, as there were changes to the space made, they just sort of floated away. But we will repost the notice portion of it. And then, of course, all of our policies are online.
okay, thank you. So let's just read it and then if you all want to chime in, okay? So unattended child, the library welcomes children to use its facilities and services and to participate in its programs. While visiting the library, children must abide by the library's behavior policy. The responsibility for a child's behavior and well-being rests with the child's parent, guardian, or caregiver, not with the staff of the library. Many older children are able to use the library on their own. However, young children under the age of 10 and/or children who are uncomfortable when left alone must be attended at the library by a parent, guardian, or caregiver. The library assumes no responsibility for children left unattended at the library. The library staff owes only the same duty to unattended children as they do other library patrons. The library does not undertake responsibility to provide supervision. If a child is left unattended in the library and circumstances warrant special attention, the child is crying, hurt, or fearful about being alone in the library, staff will attempt to locate the child's caregiver. If staff cannot locate the caregiver, they will call the Daly City Police. Library staff will stay with the child until the police arrive. The police will take the child into temporary custody per the California Welfare and Institutions Code, Section 305A. The officer will attempt to contact the child's parent or guardian to determine if he or she is able to assume custody of the child. If the officer cannot contact the parent or guardian, he will notify a social worker in the county welfare department to assume custody of the child. Members of the library staff are not permitted to give a child a ride home. So how does that sound? Any
feedback or input, anything that is not clear?
I'm just kind of curious, since around this part around calling Daly City Police to take temporary custody, I know we have now a sanctuary policy, and I was wondering if there's some language we can add to this around, like, if a child is taken in for temporary custody, like, it's just going to be for temporary custody until the parent is found, and we honor the sanctuary policy around that. Just because I'm also thinking, like, if there are undocumented families, you know, in our communities, and if the move is to turn in a young person to the police, if there's like some concerns around that from the parent, I don't know if there's some language we can kind of give the staff for what to
Our
say.
staff, I think what you're talking would be
Yeah.
a directive for the police department.
Oh,
And I
okay.
think that would go beyond your scope. And I'm confident they would not turn them over to
Right.
anything other than Child Protective Services,
Yeah, of
which
course.
is an agency of the county. And that would only be if a parent or guardian didn't show up within a reasonable amount of time. And I think I can say with confidence that's never happened at one of our libraries or in our recreation programs. We have a
Okay.
very similar policy for recreation programs. The slight difference is most of the children that participate in recreation programs are paid registrants, and they are in the custody of our staff during the program.
The recreation program.
But the expectation is when the program ends, the parent picks it up. So the big difference on the recreation side, it's a little bit punitive.
Right.
They will stay with the kid, but for every minute, it's $1 or $2 a minute extra charge. You know, so it's financial disincentive to leave your child. And again, on the recreation side, that rarely happens. And I think
Okay.
to echo the staff, I mean, it's a different era. You know, parents are really cognizant of where their kids are and who they're with and what they're doing. So abandoned children, thank God, is not something we deal with, I would say on a regular basis, but almost never.
Okay.
I could inquire with the chief of police to verify that indeed they would not, you know, if it's an undocumented
Yeah,
child.
like
they
I
wouldn't-
just don't know if it would make sense to put it in writing for the staff, or if it would be something actually that's completely separate and the
Well,
It will be,
you know, but
it will be something,
either way.
we
So,
can't
yeah,
mention
it would
that
leave-
over here.
it would
That
leave
will
our
be-
department and go to the
yeah,
police
That will be
department.
the
Yeah, yeah,
department.
And they may have something already in their policy that would say the same thing. And
Almost the same.
I can check.
So, does it look good? I think it's pretty straightforward. So can you guide us in finalizing?
The motion
If
to-
you're comfortable the way it is, you can, like I said, you can either vote to reaffirm it, or taking no action essentially is the same. It's always nice to take
It's nice.
positive action. And then I will research to, it would be outside of this policy. But I'm just, to satiate our
Yeah.
curiosity, what would happen if a parent didn't show up ever? You know, I think it goes into the custody of Child Protective Services of San Mateo County, not any federal agency, whether they're documented or not, so.
Thank you.
Thank you. So motion to approve
would
to
be
take no
awesome.
action?
Or to affirm.
To affirm.
Reaffirm.
Reaffirm.
Motion to approve to reaffirm the unattended child policy.
I'll make the motion. A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, before we leave that topic, though, I'll add, I'm really glad we took the time to look at that policy. And I think, trustee, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I think you alluded to the fact that it might be nice periodically to review, because what happens is these policies get adopted, and like this one, it sat there for 17 years without really being discussed. And we've got a total of, they're not numbered, are they?
No, they're not numbered,
Yeah.
right?
I mean,
Maybe
About 20.
about 20 or so
I-
policies.
I literally like browsed through all the policies, and there are some that was just like centuries long time ago that hasn't been revisited. So I was suggesting if we can all take portions of policies, like to review it
Yeah.
on your own. And I think when we met last time, that's what we decided to do.
Yeah.
and then make notes, and then we can check in with.
Yeah, we could revisit. I wouldn't want
Yeah.
to bog us
All
down and
of it,
have 4 or
yeah.
5 in one meeting, but
Uh-huh.
taking on 1 or 2 per meeting as you
Yeah.
see fit
Yeah.
is no problem, or even quarterly, or
Yeah, and even if.
some interval, rather than just not look at it.
Yeah.
And even if reaffirming without any changes, it shows that they were looked at. And
They were
somebody
looked
did
at,
think
yeah.
of it, yeah.
Well, what do you guys think? Is there any particular policies that, I mean, you guys work directly with libraries, and what would you suggest that any policies that we as trustees and president needs to look into it and see if we can revisit it?
Well, I noticed a couple of just small out-of-date things in our community room use policy, and I thought that might be
Yeah, I
one
was
that would
looking
be
at
worth
that one.
revisiting,
Community.
yeah.
So when we're making our agenda, maybe we decide on what the
Let me
next
know,
topic
yeah.
is. You said the community room
That
policy
was one
might
I
be one
noticed,
to
just
look at.
And so how many
okay.
libraries that they have a community room?
Just the one.
Just a,
Just the main library,
okay.
ceremony main library.
Because I read through that there's a capacity and you guys provide certain things to do there, and there's certain activities that needs to go on there. And there's requirements that needs to follow and whatnot to discuss in there, so. Okay, and so what particular area would you suggest? Or do you want to change, or?
I would probably confer with staff, particularly the staff that are involved in handling the reservations, because we have an automated, or an online system now for that. So there's just some small things that we noticed, and then, if there's any policy things. What I can do is I can have a draft and a summary of proposed changes so that they can be looked at one at a time.
Okay. Was there any incident or was there any?
No, we update the website, and I noticed, just little
Okay.
details.
And I'm not suggesting that it needs updating or changing, but I think a good one to share with the public and patrons, especially in light of Trustee Santos' comments, is our privacy policy. I mean,
Okay.
just to really reaffirm with the public that all of their records in the library are absolutely confidential, and we don't share with anybody, and including police and ICE and everybody else. So I think a lot of people might not realize that. And if there's anybody who's reluctant to get a library card because maybe they're not documented or something, just to give them the comfort level that, no, whatever they put on their library card application is absolutely 100% confidential.
Do we distribute the privacy policy upon when a patron signs up for a card or anything like that? Because, at the bank, we have privacy policies, and they're updated actually pretty frequently. So we, I think it's mailed, in their disclosures as they're updated, but also, if somebody was going to get a new product with the bank, like a credit card or a new account, we always distribute the privacy policy. Is that
So
something
we don't
that we?
distribute the policies in full. There is a list of things that we go over for people
Okay.
getting new accounts, and one of those is privacy. And especially for a practical issue for people, often the privacy is actually something that they're working against because they would like a spouse or to be able to access their account, that sort of thing.
Right,
So we do
okay.
warn them there are two sides to that as
There's
well.
two sides to it, yeah, yeah.
But their privacy is protected by law, yeah.
Okay.
So again, I'm not suggesting that we change it, but maybe in the future
Review it.
we can
Yeah.
highlight it just so people are aware that
Absolutely.
they can trust their library records.
So the meeting room policy here that I'm looking at, it was, last time it was revised, it was August 21st, 2012.
Hey, that's about right when
So
I
some time
started.
has passed, yeah.
So
Could be
That was probably my first meeting.
maybe.
7 years.
7 years, so I think it's due for a revise. There's so many rules to follow by the public.
Yeah.
So when they reserve for the room, how ahead of time they should give you guys
Well,
notice?
the policy previously stated a week. Generally, we don't really need.
Seven
days,
calendar
yeah.
days.
We don't generally always need that, I mean, assuming it's available, but we did have an instance where a group that sews quilts for veterans was in there, and they had requested it, and then the person who handles it, because it's a small staff, happened to be on vacation, and so it didn't, so a few days' notice is required.
Okay.
Any other comments on policies? But yeah, definitely when we're agenda building, we probably will
This is
bring
a
up
good-
these two. All right.
Yeah.
Okay, okay, so let's go ahead and move on to the trustees report. I know I wasn't here last meeting, so thank you so much to Lauren for holding that meeting. So when it comes to like our advocacies, right, or creating awareness, communication, and our community involvement, I just wanted to kind of like follow up on some activities that we had. Did we had a coffee with trustees event, is that right? Yeah, did
Yes.
somebody want to recap that event?
No one was there. No one was really there. Well, actually, yeah, we were, but in different like
So the
time
trustees were there,
frames.
but no patrons, unfortunately.
But we were able to talk to a couple people. Yeah, they enjoyed the coffee and the cookies. I feel like we should promote it better. I don't know
Right.
if like there's a way that, we can like post it on the
social
Instagram or.
media.
I believe Patricia did post it online.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yeah, she
It's-
does.
Or even to our school board and to the school.
Like a flyer or
Nothing, yeah,
something, and then
nothing.
maybe do we
To the
have like
community
a
and
flyer
to-
off?
At the Boys and Girls Club. And they can put it on their, what is that thing?
On the front
Messy.
Like a
Bulletin
bulletin,
Yeah, the
our
bulletin
bulletin. Yeah.
The Boys and Girls Club had just left when you guys came in.
Oh, I was there for like only a couple minutes. Yeah.
Yeah, they had brought up a large group of
Uh-huh.
young people, and then just before the coffee event started, they had to go back.
Yeah, thanks, Lauren, for putting the fork down, holding the fork down.
Bring it down.
Appreciate it.
Okay. And I think, with this event, it's really us, having a face in the community and visiting, and it's, our measure of success doesn't necessarily mean like there's like, patrons there and they're talking to us. But I think as we continue to do it, right, and then kind of get the buzz out there, then we'll get more receptive people. Because when we actually had that event, I actually found that to be successful, the one in ceremony. We had a lot of people like coming up to us.
'Cause a
and
lot of
talking to
people
us.
come there.
But it was
Traffic, yeah.
because we had it aligned with like a story time. So maybe that, like if they're already like having an event and then we do the coffee with trustees, that might be
Yeah, we
better.
did do that, but
Yeah.
unfortunately, the story time was attended by only a single child.
Oh,
at Bayshore.
okay,
One
yeah,
child.
okay, all right. But
So I think Westlake Ceremony and
Mm-hmm.
Bayshore, so next time John Daly.
okay, yeah. So should we could do our next one at John Daly. Does anybody have do we want to put that on the calendar right now for some dates?
You trying to aim for quarterly or?
That's always easier.
Yeah, so I think like bi-monthly is good too, right? Maybe like every other month. So we had one in August, so then maybe October is our next one. What dates do we have?
What dates are they open?
John
programs.
Daly is Monday, Wednesday, Friday. They are probably busiest on Wednesdays. They do have an evening story time at 6 p.m. It's an early release day for the kids, and so they have more traffic on that day.
I mean, we should go on the traffic day.
So how about, is anybody available on the 9th or 16th? So those are both Wednesdays.
Oh, wait,
I can do the 9th.
what is that? At what time?
What time is the story, or,
Times at 6 PM.
oh, so it'd be in the evening?
In the evening?
But you could do from like 5 to 6:30
Yeah, because
or
there's
something.
still like, there's patrons there in the late afternoon. There's a lot. I remember I did some Wells Fargo stuff there. So maybe 4 p.m.
4?
If
Well, why don't
anybody-
we just make time, whatever time anybody can be available? We don't have to
Okay.
really be all there,
Uh-huh.
all at 4.
I kind of
But-
like the 3 to 6 window
Yeah.
because I feel like we kind of
Yeah.
alternate
You come.
shifts.
Yeah.
When
Yeah.
I came
Exactly.
to-
Okay, so we'll just do a window of 3 to 6 and then whoever
Yes,
can.
whoever
yeah.
can come in those.
Good idea.
Okay. Because I think I missed you when I got there.
Yeah.
At John Daly?
Yeah.
At John Daly and, where's that at?
War Memorial.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, over there. Okay.
So Wednesday the 9th, right?
Yes.
October 9th. And then we'll do the window 3 to 6.
Sounds good.
Okay. And then for communications, did anybody do any visits for libraries?
Nope.
Yeah.
No.
No? Okay. But we will keep that on the agenda, to keep it ongoing.
I do think an update though around the work that Patricia's doing at Bayshore and the Seed Library. It is growing and she is interested in like possibly looking at like spaces to do some community growing. And so I feel like it's just worth having the conversation around like community involvement. I don't know what she has in mind and I'm like doing some personal research around like are there like grants we can get for that program? But I think it's worth kind of continuing to talk about if we want to support that work.
And then I think with that, it would be good to, and then I'm just making sure we're not breaking any like Brown Act policies, but can we go there and just speak to her about her? Yeah. Yeah, okay. So maybe,
I would caution you
yeah.
not to be-
Not together,
not more than
but
2.
if
Exactly.
you guys want to, if anybody wants to kind of just have a meeting with her and then we can kind of help her out with seeing if we can get grants or,
Yeah, I kind of hit her up today. I wanted to just talk through like what would the program like this cost, and I can report back on it at the next meeting.
Okay, so you'll
Yeah.
go ahead and follow up with her.
Did she find a spot where she wanted to be at?
Well, it's interesting because I think pulling from when I used to work there, I know that there's been some ideas already from the center around wanting to find a plot of land. So I'm gonna be a little bit curious around like what are the possibilities. I think the ED is my neighbor. The new ED.
Huh?
The new ED for the Boys and Girls Club is my neighbor. So,
Knock on his door.
community involvement. I think just exploring the options.
So-
But if you have ideas, she did mention the school has.
Yeah,
a
so the
garden,
school, we
but-
have a garden, we already opened, we already started.
Yeah.
And then there's other, like right there on the library,
Yeah.
or like on behind the bathroom, the restroom, there's that land. I don't know who owns the land.
Bayshore Heights Board.
City, yeah.
So, the city, yeah.
Yeah, so
Well,
that, she was also curious about that. So I guess
Yeah.
that's a
And
question.
fairly recently, the city did create a new parklet, basically a garden, by the Cow Palace, the end of Acacia.
On Acacia, yeah, I've seen that.
On Acacia.
And and there's brand new irrigation out there.
Yeah.
That, the goal there was to keep it all native plants, I believe, but we can check in,
Yeah, it's
see
not
if there's
today.
an opportunity to partner with that space.
It would definitely have to be a partnership because that library is only open 2 days a week.
Right,
And
right.
That's
Yeah.
not
That's
going to
true.
be enough to support plants.
And we should find something that it's very convenient for everybody to walk to instead of
Going up the hill.
going to heaven.
Yeah, that's true. And then in terms of accessing that, space by Bayshore, like where we could possibly, like what would it take to get access to that as a
City.
possible? Like, would we have to go through the city to get
You
access?
get access, I'm not
To like
quite,
that plot of land by Bayshore, the one that Teresa is referring to?
Bayshore Heights Park?
No, I think it's more so by the community center, right? Are we talking about the same thing?
You're right down by the
Community
Cow
Center.
Palace?
Yeah, yeah, by the Cow
Well, that's the
Palace.
city.
Oh, okay.
That's the city. There's a portion that belongs to the
I think we're
city.
gonna have to look at a map, so I can.
Okay, yeah, we'll do that another time.
But you mentioned that park. I haven't been there, but I just went by. Would there be a possibility to have some sort of a segment there to start a garden?
Anything's possible.
Okay, that's what we asked.
um,
That's good. Good
Yeah,
to hear
Bayshore
that.
Heights Park was actually there before the community center. It was just a park.
I mean, we can do it everywhere. She can connect
so-
with the school.
Yeah, and we can connect with, it's maintained by our Public Works Department, the parks guys who cut the grass and trim the trees and the bushes. I can certainly have a conversation with them to
Thank
see if
you.
maybe there's a good place with access to irrigation.
Yeah. That would be nice.
Yeah, that'd be really good.
Yeah, because it seems like this, I mean, even from what you said last time, Lauren, it seems like the seed library program is just well, and so if there's a way we can kind of flex that to grow
Yeah.
even participation in that library, I think that
And
would be great.
enhance it, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And support it. I know Robin, they have a garden at JFK, and it's actually something new within the last few years, but, and then, so it's really like teaching the kids like a different skill set, which is great. So I might even reach out to see what they did to kind of get it,
Would be good.
up and running. Her first day of school is tomorrow, so we'll.
Are those above ground beds?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, they did
Yeah.
the same thing at George Washington School too.
yeah.
That might be an easier way to get to where we want to be, maybe.
Go
Maybe.
first.
Yeah, theirs has grown throughout the years, so.
Okay.
Let's see. So one thing I did want to bring up actually is I have a meeting coming up in September, and I believe Joseph is attending that too, where we're meeting with two of the council members. So if there are any, obviously some tall bars that we're going to want to focus on is fundraising. But if there are any additional topics that you guys want to bring up that we can kind of like follow up with or speak to them about, it'd be a good time to kind of let us know.
Maybe the first thing we need to do is to find a replacement for that empty chair.
Okay, so another trustee member.
Yeah. That's right.
Yeah.
So the purpose of your meeting with them?
They just reached out and are wanting to speak to us, so that's kind of where it's at. No particular agenda, but I will be bringing up, things that might concern me, such as funding, FTE, which go hand in hand with funding, and maybe like just some updates on how maybe, you brought it to our attention that, and we're reviewing like policies, we're doing our visits, state of the board, things like that. Did you get any additional info on what?
No,
Yeah,
I
it's
got a
kind of
meeting
just
notice
like-
without an agenda, but
Yeah.
maybe it would help. These meetings happen periodically, and it's kind of a brainstorming session
Yeah,
with members of the
which it-
council and DCPLA board and the trustees, so.
It would be great to have like because we were thinking of ways to like collaborate with the other commissions. So maybe having like a park day at like ceremony where Parks and Rec can have like, hold space for youth to library, wait, what? Oh, yeah. Yeah, like just like collaborating with other commissions to have like, people go to the library, meet the trustees and, everyone. So maybe that could be like an idea, maybe
Like a
like in the
picnic.
spring.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We did the gathering for the Brown Act.
We
And
have actually
that
had
was-
joint meetings of the
Really
Recreation
nice.
Commission and the Library Board of Trustees.
Yeah.
And not a lot of
When was
business
it?
overlap,
Uh-huh.
but just, an opportunity to get to know each other and remind everyone we are one big department. That's something if you want to consider doing that. I don't know
Yeah.
if you had something more social in mind.
Just like something like for the community, like it would be good, yeah,
Not a joint meeting in here.
So you're thinking commissioners and like
council,
council members,
council members,
and
like
then,
meeting
Uh-huh.
Daly City residents and like,
and the residents.
yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yes, I didn't get one.
Okay.
Something like an existing event might be easier. We carve out space for the commission, maybe?
Oh, yeah, can I get one of those? I want to. Give it.
Did you?
All
Rather,
right.
rather than creating a whole new event, we have these events that we know we're going to have
That are coming up
people.
and we can all attend to, right?
Just a thought.
Mm-hmm.
Yep,
Yeah.
that's tough.
We have that national night,
We just had National Night Out.
night out, and I totally wasn't aware of it. So a reason why I find out is because we, our organization PIT was invited to bring an informational table, but since nobody was ready to, so my chair turned it over to the boosters for Jefferson, and we ended up going there. So when I walked in there, there was, Daly City,
Council members,
and I was like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
how come
we're not there.
we're not there?
Uh-huh.
So,
You're talking
and
about the
I-
event at
yes, at the
ceremony?
ceremony. So I was like, I'm not here for Daly City libraries. I'm here for the booster. But I think in the future that we really need to start
Coordinate.
Yeah, coordinate something towards that, and maybe it's a way to put our face out there. And I don't know what you guys think,
But
because
that's what, like in these meetings, if you notice, we do talk about like community involvement, who's going to be like our face, right? Which brings us on to our next topic. So we do have like a couple of events coming up. And so we have the Crazy About Cars, September 14th.
Yes.
We have something going on at the Hillside Library, like where like a Filipina author is coming in. It's Filipino Lit Night. So
Lit Night?
October 9th. And then we have Kasayahan sa Daly City. So these are all events that, I would love to have like some representation there, either one, a few of us, all of us. I definitely plan on attending the Crazy About Cars. And the Kasayahan, because I will probably get some like Wells Fargo volunteers for this. But is everybody or anybody else available for the Crazy About Cars event?
when is that again?
September 14th.
I'm available. I'm also
That's-
available for
Down for that too.
Kasayahan too.
This is Saturday.
Okay. And then what about a Filipino Lit Night on October 9th? I think it's at 6:30. Oh, you
Yeah,
have it?
yeah, it's at
There it
6:30.
is.
That's not quite finalized flyer, but yes, it's going to be at the John Daly Library at 6:30 on Wednesday, October 9th. And it's a.
That's the same
Oh, we
day
will
we're
already
gonna be
be
there.
Perfect.
Coffee.
Yeah, we'll be at the Trustees.
Perfect. So
Those two
we'll
together, that's
have
perfect.
representation, to your point, at every event, but I do get what you're saying, like we should at least be, pre-plan on going, at least one or some of us.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else for community involvement that you guys that comes to mind?
And there is also the September 21st Latino
Okay.
Heritage Month celebration on the back of the same flyer.
On the back of the same flyer, okay.
I wouldn't be available for that, but I think it would be good to show up if we could.
September 21st.
I think I have
2
a
to 3.
class on that day, all day,
Yeah.
the county office.
I think I'm working that Saturday, so I won't be able to make it.
I think I can go on that day.
Yeah, I might be able to hold it too, maybe.
I mean, whoever can be available, it would be nice if we shoot it on a text, hey, I'm going to this.
Yeah.
So we don't have to be all there
Huh.
or,
Yeah, just one or a few.
yeah, just one or a half
You just stop in, right?
and say hi.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. So, thank you guys for opening up your calendars. All right. So, now we have our report from the Daly City Public Library Associates. I see you, Bill. Welcome. Thank you for joining our meeting.
Thank you, it's my pleasure. Greetings from DCPLA, members of the Board of Trustees and staff. Some of this you've probably heard before. You were talking about Crazy About Cars. So that is coming up, as mentioned, September 14th, noon to 3 p.m. in the Ceremony Shopping Center. It's going to be in the area where the farmers market typically is held. So should, close to Macy's on that corner. So far, we've got several dealerships signed up for the Pit Crew Challenge. We're expecting over 100 cars, trucks, and motorcycles to be there on display. Home Depot has cooperated with us to provide information for kids and materials for a race car, a model race car activity. Skyline College Mechanics Department will demonstrate how to change tires safely at home. There will be trade representatives with educational tables on job awareness and training about jobs in the auto industry and construction. And we're expecting live music from the Jefferson High School group, and the Jefferson High School Robotics Club should be there. Daly City Police is committed to helping with logistics. So we're looking forward to the event. The planning continues. We're continuing to recruit participants and sponsors, and that's moving along. I know in the past I've mentioned the possibility of having some sort of event involving Disney or Pixar with an author. I'm not sure if Victoria's talked about that, but that was discussed at the July 23rd DCPLA meeting. And right now, the contacts at Pixar are too busy with Pixar business to be able to schedule anything. But it's possible that an author talk will be scheduled with a local author whose name is Meredith May. She's the author of a recent book called The Honey Bus. It's a memoir of her growing up in the Carmel Valley. And I know the library's obtained a copy or is in the process of doing so. It's also available through PLS. And I've heard her talk about it. It's a fascinating talk, and it would be a nice author talk for Daly City, for DCPLA. So we're working on that. The only other thing that I have to report is that Susan Brissenden Smith has been on a contract as an advisor to our executive director to assist during this transition year. And it's been extremely valuable to Victoria to have Susan as a resource to go to. Susan is just a wealth of knowledge and institutional memory. So there's been a request for a contract extension, and that was approved. So Susan will continue in this advisory role. Do you have any questions? Otherwise, that's my DCPLA report.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Any announcements and communications, anything we did not go over? I know we went over the slew of events, but.
Quite a bit of ground.
Yeah.
You did a lot. Good job, Neil.
Okay. So let's go on to the agenda building for next meeting. I do love that we are going over policies that have not been looked at in quite some time. So, the next, sorry. So the next, meeting, did we want to go ahead and just look over that privacy policy? Yeah?
And
And then the
meeting room.
community meeting room?
Yeah,
That sounds good.
Was there a second policy?
meeting room.
Oh, the meeting.
Meeting room, yeah. So we'll actually put both of those on the agenda. Yes.
And I'd like to invite Sarah Spence, our youth services librarian, to just give an overview of all the fun that was had and learning that was had during summer learning.
During summer learning, all right, yeah, absolutely.
There's still time.
Yeah, yeah.
It continues on until the last day of August.
Okay.
Can I also suggest to add there to see the budget? So we can go over the budget?
For next meeting?
Yeah. Please.
So,
Oh, yeah. But, sorry.
You're talking about the current budget.
The current
budget?
budget, yes.
Okay, I was like, I remember the October deadline for the next one. But we want to see the past one, right?
budget. Okay. And then,
Yeah.
so for our, did you have any additional questions?
The 1920 budget that we're in right now, or
Let me think. Wait, give me 1 second. I was thinking of it and then,
I feel like when we last talked about wanting budget, we wanted to see 1819. And if
the
that-
last one or the recent.
The last
one was-
time we were
the last
talking
one,
about
yeah.
it in the meeting, yeah, I think I remember we wanted to see 1819.
And did we ever have a copy?
No, because there was
No.
something around the closing of the books,
Yes.
right?
Usually September-ish is when they close out the
Okay.
previous fiscal year, which
So
ended
would
on
we-
June 30th. So we're, July 1, we started the new
Okay.
fiscal year. So assuming all that data is readily available, we'll absolutely let you know how we did.
That would be good.
How we're doing.
That in. Okay. And then, we set a date for our coffee with trustees, and it actually falls on the same date as the Filipina Lit Night event. So we'll get some follow-up there. We're gonna follow up on your conversation with, Patricia regarding the seed library, the seed, garden.
The replacement of Marcel.
When is
Did we get
the,
any applicant? Are we
When
allowed
is-
to know those things?
yeah, so let me see, so our next, meeting is when? The 17th, and we don't talk to them until the 24th, I believe, wait, 24th. Oh, no, 4th. Is it the 4th? 23rd, I'm getting my, meetings mixed up. Okay, so we don't talk to them unfortunately until after, but then that will give us some time to prepare, some topics that you all might want to discuss. Okay, I confirmed, yeah, it's September 23rd. Okay, and then, we can go ahead and follow up on the, events that we're attending. All right, so, I know we have a guest in the audience. Any public comment? Oh, did you have something, Sheila, to say? Oh, did you? Oh, no, okay. Cool. All right, so if there's no public comment, I will adjourn this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.